You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
My first guest this morning is Gillian Hayes of Gillian Hayes Property Letting. Gillian, start by telling us how you initially became involved in the property letting business.
Okay, 17 years ago actually I started working for the first property letting agency in Wexford. Loved that. Stayed there and worked, stayed there and loved my work for 6 to 7 years. They then sold the business actually to an investor, and I stayed there, for following, I guess, a year and a half, and just decided to take a little bit of time out after that and be part of company. And then just took a couple of months off just to find my bearings, really, to see where I was going to go from there.
So your next step really was to go and set up your own property letting business. Mm-hmm. How did that come about?
Okay, so how that came about is, first of all, kind of an awful lot of local property owners contacted me just to see, was I going to stay in the industry? And were kind of in turn delighted when I said I was. And then also several of the auctioneers also contacted me as well, just, to see if I would consider maybe going in under their umbrella or different options like that. So just finally made up my mind that I was just going to open my own business, and did so then in 2003. And really the start of it was when I rented my own kind of little office, I guess, on the first floor of a building on North Main Street, which was just opposite the AIB Bank. And then kind of, so really it's gone from strength to strength from then. Okay, so in 2003 I started on my own, and that's really where I haven't looked back.
So once you did start up yourself in 2003, how supportive were the auctioneers at that stage?
Yeah, they were great. And I think they were delighted to have somebody, to refer the lettings business onto as well from themselves. And also they were great kind of as mentors as well. Just when I started up on my own, I was 29 when I opened the office. So yeah, just found that a tremendous help. It was just a very, very lucky start really that I had, had their referrals from the very off.
You started a business back in 2003. You're celebrating 10 years in business this year. Yes. Lots have changed over the past 10 years. I'd like to have a chat to you now about some of those changes. I suppose let's start with technology. We've seen the onset of sites like daft.ie to be website and portals to advertise rental properties across the country. When you saw that coming, how much of a threat did you see it to be?
Okay, well, I guess kind of it was very new as well for me, because really the advertising prior to that would have been, in the classified ads in the Wexford paper, that really would, and then window advertising from the shop fronts. So it was changed, and I think myself and all the other agents included at that stage would have found it quite threatening with daft, just probably because we didn't really understand understand all the packages that they had. But really, it really has been daft have been great for the industry. It gave property seekers really a great portal for seeing all, rather than having to call individually to each letting agent, that it was there right in front of them.
Okay. Was there, I suppose, a stage whereby lots of landlords decided that they were going to rent their own properties and maybe cut out the letting agent as the middleman?
Yeah, definitely that kind of started really with the whole daft thing as well, and I suppose when things started to quieten down a little bit. But I think people realised quite quickly then that there's more work involved in it than kind of meets the eye. That there's, with the time consumed, for viewings, and sometimes you can be showing places for maybe 10, 15 times, and it's 10 or 15 different trips. So, and then really when you have an agent that has local knowledge and that are established, this kind of that experience is really invaluable to owners. Regulation
as well has come into the industry itself. Mm-hmm. I suppose on the landlord side we've seen the PRTB. Mm-hmm. What impact has that had on your business, if any?
Not really any, it's kind of made things a little bit easier for owners in one sense, that they understand that, once they're registered, if a dispute does arise between themselves and the tenant, that there is a body there rather than having to go to court, that there is a mediation service really, which the PRTB look after and provide. So, that was kind of welcomed. I think people are nervous of regulation and licensing and all those things, but really, after when you're involved in the industry, those things are very important.
Back in 2008 then we saw the introduction of building energy rating assessments for properties. Is that something that has taken off? Have you noticed that I suppose those looking to rent properties out there today are looking for BERs and wanting to know the rating? And is it having an influence on the purchasing decision?
Okay, well, it's a legal requirement, first of all, to have the BER regulation, so they have to have that. Again, if I was looking myself, I would certainly want to see the BER rating. And to be honest with you, it's kind of made owners aware that if they have a very low BER rating, they have to increase that. They have to increase it. Obviously, location is always kind of paramount importance to somebody looking, but the BER rating definitely, again, was welcomed by both sides. It gave the owners a good idea of how well insulated their homes were too.
The perception out there in business would be that during recessionary times, letting agents do very, very well because the banks really shut down giving out loans and mortgages to people. So they're left with a situation whereby they have to look down the road of renting. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course there's that. We are probably as busy as we were. The volume of we're still very busy. When it's, of course, and we're the same with anybody else, when there's a recession, our fees, would have suffered dreadfully kind of because our fees would be percentage based. But there's a huge supply of people looking for properties. Probably, with the fact that owners have been hit badly, kind of with when they're struggling, kind of the quality of properties available mightn't be as strong as they were before. Purely because they don't have the money to maintain them as well.
Gillian, reports that I've been reading recently have said that rental income has increased slightly over the past 12 months. Have you noticed that yourself?
Yeah, they have. Again, Dublin are thriving. Their rents really have increased. In Wexford, funnily enough, actually we're a little bit higher than Waterford. Waterford has taken a huge decrease in the rental values. But yeah, in Wexford, kind of, I would say they have levelled out now. We saw a slight increase really for the last 12 months. Well, certainly the 6 months. The 6 months just gone. I think the rents have stabilised at that.
I was speaking to Patrick McCormick there recently from Sam Macaulay Group, and he was telling me that medical card business is a huge element to their overall turnover. And I'm wondering, does rent allowance play a huge part of your turnover with your own business?
No, not so much. Probably 20-25% really, I'd say. And the reason for that in our industry is that, social welfare or the rent allowance industry would put a cap on the amount of rent that they, would say that a person should be paying. So if, for example, a family with 3 children or, their maximum, what they would say is that they have to find a property for €575 or less. So with us, it's very, very difficult for us to match them then to a property because very few owners, especially with a house, 2 or 3 bedroom house, would take €575. So not so much in our industry, it would probably be about 20-25%, certainly in my office anyway.
Tell me about people's expectations. I'm wondering, have they increased dramatically over the last 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, people are definitely more aware of what they're looking at. They're certainly looking for more value for money. Before, if we had a property, if we had a really nice property and the person really liked it, €900 to €1,000 wasn't a big ask, and nobody really seemed to blink an eye at it. But now, 600 really is, where people are at.
In your experience, are the banks lending, and have you seen many tenants move away from renting in recent times?
Very few. There's very few people. I know the banks are saying kind of that they're lending, and I listened to Adrian Haythornthwaite quite recently actually on one of your shows. And yes, while they're saying that they're sanctioning mortgages, I don't think many people are actually being able to draw them down. So no, there's very few people actually leaving the rental market to buy. Investors, yes, but renters, no.
Gillian, the Property Services Regulatory Authority was set up last year, and I know that part of their remit is to regulate and licence letting agents as well as auctioneers. What impact is that going to have on your business?
Well, look at any kind of established agent would absolutely welcome that. What you would hope with all regulation is that it's across the board. That everybody is regulated. Then, again, nobody likes all that extra paperwork and things at the start, but it's certainly something that I, really, really welcome.
I'd like to focus next on the investor market, and I'd like to talk to you about the demand and supply of properties in Wexford, and I suppose maybe even provide some advice to those that might have a lump of money sitting in a bank account and are wondering what to do with it. Firstly, talk to me about the demand and supply of property in Wexford.
Okay, we would see a number of my clients are reinvesting again, and they know the market, and I would work quite closely with them on that. So definitely the demand, like if we had there's a huge demand for good quality houses, there always is. It's probably been upped really in the last 12 months. If we had 10 houses in the morning that were, close to Wexford town, presented really well, and in good condition, we would probably have those rented within a couple of weeks once they're, priced at the correct kind of market value. So really for any investor, I would always say, buy a house, just buy a house in a good area. Once it has oil-fired central heating, once it has a back garden, these things kind of never change and I don't ever see them changing really anyway. But oil-fired central heating, a back garden, what else do we need? An open fire and a bath as well, actually. They would be people's main requirements, and well insulated. So, and as I said, we would really have a waiting list of people constantly for those homes.
So what I'm getting from you is that supply is the problem here, that the demand exceeds the supply in that area. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think an awful lot of investors kind of in the boom time bought apartments. I think that's mainly what they bought. So there isn't the same supply of houses as there is apartments. They didn't build as many houses, I don't think either. And when they did, they become more owner occupied than investor led. So that's really it. There isn't as big a supply. So it is like if somebody does have money to invest, it's a great investment just to go and buy a house.
Tell me about, I suppose, the apartments. How are they going? How are they being rented at the moment? Is there much of a demand there for them?
Yeah, they would have been the most highly affected really by the whole recession. I would say that their rents probably dropped 50%. Some would argue that they were too highly priced anyway. Maybe the apartments used to kind of fetch maybe 700 and over per month, and some of them are down actually to 350, 400 euro per month now. Again, some of them are holding their own, and maybe, I would say the average rent for an apartment at the minute is 500 euro per month. That's the average.
Talk to me about, we'll say, the turnover of tenants in the average house.
Yeah. Really, when somebody moves into a home, and a house especially, they will make a home of it. We would find that tenants that we put in would stay there probably, again, on average 3 years. 3 years would be the normal term. Some of them are there with us for 7, 8, 9 years in the same home. So there's with the house, you have a much stronger likelihood that you will keep your tenant for so much longer. In an apartment, that's much quick. There's a much higher turnover. I would always kind of say to the owners of apartments that really budget their income on about 9 months, 9 months rent, because, there are higher vacant periods and things with apartments.
I suppose with property, location are the top three priorities. Locations, let's say, around Wexford town, what are the hot locations out there today?
Okay, anywhere from Clonard village, Clonard all the way into town really. That would be the most sought after area. White Rock Hill is a hugely sought after area as well. And kind of again from Ardich go down, they're lovely homes all the way down along. And then kind of the town centre, there are still a number of people who really want to live in the town centre, purely because they will have the luxury of not having a car if they don't have to have a car, and properties that are close to schools. So really from Clonard, White Rock Hill, and on into town then.
And are you finding that the demand is coming from families or single people?
Families again, I suppose our main age would be from 25 to 40. That's our main, age category that would be renting. I'm saying that we had a lady the other day at 70, moving into a home. So it certainly is varied with us. But really 25 to 40 would be the average age, and professional couples, families, they would be the norm.
Investors are all thinking about return on investment. For somebody to invest in a property around Wexford town today, what could they expect to get for a typical house?
Okay, again, for a typical house, well presented, well insulated, and all the things that I kind of mentioned earlier, average rent about 650. I'm saying that a lot of, between 600 and 650 would be an average rent.
There's certainly no doubt about it, Gillian. You seem to know the property market very, very well here in Wexford. I'm wondering, property investors, those, with cash that are looking to invest in property around Wexford, do many of them contact you with a view to finding out what's in demand before purchasing property? Because I know myself, if I was certainly considering a purchase, I would be looking to try and gather as much market intelligence from people like yourself about the property market as possible before making any purchase.
That's it. Thanks, Karl. They do probably, again, kind of my relationship with the auctioneers has worked really, really well. The auctioneers would have, for so many of the years, would have sent different investors down to me, often with kind of a folder of brochures on different properties. And they kind of would have trusted in the fact that I would have said to them, look, this will absolutely rent, or vice versa. There's a huge and probably 15% of my calls during the day, or certainly during the week, would be from investors all over the country, actually not just Wexford, that would have known me or been recommended again by an auctioneer directly to me, just for my advice on what would be a good area, and the rents that they would hope to achieve and things like that.
Well, that's certainly very encouraging. Before we go, as I said earlier, you're celebrating 10 years in business this year. What is in store for the next 10 years for Gillian Hayes Property Letting?
Okay, well, I suppose, I'd like to advance. I would see myself always as advancing, and keep my eyes open for more opportunities, possibly within the same industry. And with any bit of luck, win the lotto and live in Bora Bora, in a hammock somewhere. But I'm ambitious, and again, I love Wexford, and I love my work, so who knows.
My final question for you, Gillian, is you're a working mother. Mm-hmm. How do you balance that work-life balance that people find so hard to get right?
Okay, and I myself find that hard to get right. I think you're always struggling with that. I guess the community has been very, very good to me in Wexford. I am a working mother, as I said, married to Des, and we've one son, Jacob. He's in school now, and he goes to the Educate Together school here in Wexford. And as I said, kind of Wexford has been extremely good to me, throughout my business. And, I'm the chairperson on their board of management there, and love giving something back voluntarily. I believe everybody actually should do something, if they get the opportunity to do something voluntarily like that. It's a great, great feeling. That's kind of, and we're always evolving, and so hopefully I'll continue with that as well, and try and match them all up.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.